Welcome back to the 3 News Show with us on C Today, and we have updates from the region in Myanmar, where the media has reported that the government has executed 4 opponents of the military government.
The decision to carry out the executions drew widespread international concern and protest. 2 of those named by the reports were Padjadjaran, a 41-year-old former lawmaker from ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi party, and Kwa Min Yu, a 53-year-old veteran pro-democracy activist better known as Ko Jimmy. They were convicted under the country's counterterrorism law, and the death sentences were announced on June 3rd.
Now, the decision to carry out the executions drew widespread international concern and protest, including a letter from Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen. He is currently the chairman of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and is leading the group's efforts to try to resolve the crisis in Myanmar. And to understand more about this particular issue, we are joined by Padjadjaran University International Relations expert Teuku Rezasyah. Teuku Rezasyah, thank you so much for being with us again in this afternoon. We seek for enlightenment, but first and foremost, before we start the discussion, we can take off our masks first. That's
Thank you very much. I'm honored.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, Pak Reza, because we're always keen on learning something new from you. Because specifically, in your observation, first, why do you think now is the time that Myanmar executed 4 political oppositions and a prisoner in such a brutal manner so soon?
This is the question of the world. Media is under full control of the government.
Yes.
And then visitors are hardly permitted to come and go.
Yes.
Even ASEAN envoy has difficulties to enter Myanmar. What I see is the government at the moment it has a massive legitimacy, full of power, full of a capacity. Why do they have to kill the 4 prisoners? This is difficult to answer. I think the first answer is this: unluckily they have a history. The history of Myanmar is coup d'etat, military regime, and then ethnic conflict. And this is their long cycle of history. This may happen.
Yep.
And the second answer reminds me of men riding tigers.
Yes.
Men riding tiger. They do not know when to step down because it's really nice to ride a tiger, isn't it? Full of speed, and then you can control the jungle, and all the rest are afraid of you. This is the second answer. And the third answer is it is really difficult here to win the heart and mind of the people. They have won the politics through coup d'etat in February last year. But to run a nation is difficult. Governments need to win the heart and mind of the people. Government needs to win the confidence of the world. And also, especially for Myanmar, they need to win the confidence of the multicultural society.
That's right.
The ruling party at the moment, the ruling government is the Bamaria. They consist of the 68% of the population. Then come 9% the Shan, and then 7% the Karen, and then 4% the Rakhine, the Muslims, and 3% the Chinese, 2% the Indian, and the rest are 5%. So they have multiple problems. But in this case, I think in the past, Indonesia have been consulting them. Our country is the laboratory for your politics. We have been in this situation. At the moment, the world has become more democratic. The issues are human rights. The issues are good governance. Let me share my experience with you. But the government in Myanmar, they have their own way of thinking. So even ASEAN having difficulties to deal with them. Yeah. We have, in the previous meetings, we have offered ideas such as the 5-point consensus, for example, the end of the conflict, and then greater consultation among yourself. And we think that it would be good if ASEAN have an envoy to discuss this kind of thing with you. And then we ASEAN ready to help you in terms of humanitarian assistance. And then please permit our envoy to consult with all parties, because ASEAN doesn't want to teach or to teach, but ASEAN wants to share its best experiences with the Myanmar. But the answer is no, 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 and then this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So I think the government believes that its own recipe is the best way to handle the nation, because they are the one who rule. They are the one who has the history of the nation. They are the one who know the societies. They are the one who knows who are pro-governments, who are anti the government. So that's what happened today.
Yeah. But I
Winston
think-
Churchill.
Yeah, but I think with them doing the execution, it'll be even harder for them to win the heart of the people, right? But what I'm trying to ask is, how is the political climate in Myanmar right now, in your opinion?
Well, the killing of the four, they call it opponents, they call it people who are against the stability, people are the terrorists, it have affected the nations. It has broken the trust there, because earlier on, February last year, the military junta promised to have an election in about 1 year time, but the 1 year time is over. And now what happened is a feeling of disbelief on the government, and then the government may feel they need to better control the opposition. And at the moment, it is very difficult to conduct normal development.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to development, government needs to win the trust and the heart and mind of the people. People are supposed to be the subject of this development. They are not the objects of the development. So I think the current regime is having difficulties. Having difficulties, I think they are unsure of what they're going to do. The world will pressure. The world will pressure unilaterally, regionally, and also it is very difficult for ASEAN, because Myanmar is our big family.
Yeah. So certainly, I see that there is an internal conflict, and I completely understand the analogy you use. That is the Winston Churchill quote.
Tiger, yeah.
The dictator, riding the tiger, and the tiger gets hungrier, and the more it folds, they just don't want to step down of the tiger,
Correct.
right? But having that said, though, you know that. You've just mentioned how frustrated the world already is. It feels like the world is already seeing a dead end.
Yes.
Because it looks like even ASEAN are not entirely sure what else they can do.
Yes.
Do you think sanctions are going to work? Because countries have sanctioned Myanmar since last year, and I don't think it looks like it is anything is changing. What kind of sanction, or which country is left, do you think that can have an influence over decisions from Myanmar?
The world has been mentioning sanctions, but so far the sanctions are involving arms going to Myanmar, shipments through somewhere going to Myanmar. It is not it is forbidden. We have produced also sanctions inside ASEAN. For example, not inviting the Myanmar authorities to the ASEAN summit. Yeah, I think the world is running out of ammunition, because the world has witnessed, even though Russia has received heaps of sanctions, but Russia survived. Even Russia finds itself stronger.
Yeah.
And for Myanmar, I think sanctions would be felt more if it comes from China. One, they have a long border, around 2,000 kilometers. And also China, they have inland trade with the Myanmar.
Yes.
And also the government in Beijing, they have promised foreign direct investments to Myanmar, and not to mention heaps of giant projects into Myanmar. Billions of dollars are being channeled to Myanmar, and Myanmar is waiting for this. The project has been planned since 2013, and it's going on until 2018. It will go more and more. And I think the West was correct that China should pressure Myanmar to be more open and to be aware on the notion of human rights. Well, but for China, China has been learning from ASEAN, respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And in this case, ASEAN is witnessing that China is having a soft approach. It is in line with ASEAN approach. It's better to engage Myanmar before Myanmar is getting out of hand. Indonesia was, among others, the first country who wanted Myanmar to join ASEAN, in order to prevent Myanmar from becoming the satellite of China.
Yeah.
But at the moment, indirectly, Myanmar has become the satellite of China. So it is things are getting more difficult to deal with Myanmar. So I do not know what is to be done. I think ASEAN has, in ASEAN do not have enough ideas for
Or
this.
leverage. perhaps.
Leverage,
Yeah.
because we have provided moral sanctions. We have prevented Myanmar top leaders of attending ASEAN summits and so on. And then we produce what we call it. When it comes to ASEAN summit, we were at the same table with the U.S. So we shared the same ideas. We criticized the problems of human rights and needs for greater democratization in Myanmar, but that's it. But I do not know what the rest of ASEAN could do with regard to Myanmar. At least there must be a combination of cooperation plus engagement and keep doing multi-track diplomacies, because I see sign that Myanmar, the government in Myanmar said, you, ASEAN, and also the rest of the world have been consulting the wrong parties in Myanmar. So if this is the answer, meaning the government in Myanmar are ready for greater consultation. But how to start? Because earlier on, they rejected the envoys coming from Brunei and also envoys coming from Cambodia. And even the top leaders in Cambodia has complained because what happened this week is about at the same week with the next ASEAN Foreign Minister Summit. So it is difficult. Maybe Pak Jokowi visited China
Recently, yes.
and now he's in Japan. And sometime tomorrow he'll go to South Korea. I think that maybe a special discussion on Myanmar, because Myanmar needs to be pushed, also promised, with regards to its future existence in this world. Because if we ask the top leaders of Myanmar, how do you want to be remembered? Of course, they do not want to be remembered as a barbaric government, as a government who are against human rights, a government who kill its people. I think negotiation, consultation is the answer for this question. And I sincerely hope that Indonesia and Myanmar will see Indonesia head of G20, and next year will be head of ASEAN. I think we have a bigger weight compared to the rest of ASEAN member countries.
Why do you think so? Why do you think Indonesia will have a bigger weight and influence over Myanmar when all envoys, so far Brunei and both Cambodia, have already failed?
Because when I see crisis in the past year, Indonesia always say, what you are experiencing today, it was what I had experienced in the past. You are having a military regime. We had that. But we realize, democratization is coming to the surface. Military regime is becoming less popular. So we had practiced a transition from military regime to a quasi-democracy, then coming to the full democracy today. It needs time. It needs blood, sweat, and tears. And we have informed Myanmar that we are not lecturing you, but you can give us any questions. Because if you compare Indonesia with the rest of the world, I think the best laboratorium is in Indonesia, and we are fellow Asian. So this is approximately the logics introduced by the Indonesians. At one hand, Myanmar believed this, but later on, they ran out of the track. They have their own path. So anyhow, consultation should remain. Yeah. And I'm sure once Pak Jokowi coming back, I think soon after I think in between, I think from now on until the G20 episode, I think Myanmar will become under his microscope.
Yeah. But is that, so we read earlier in the news that the U.S. has urged China to increase pressure on Myanmar following the military junta execution. Now, State Department spokesperson said China could influence Myanmar more than any country,
Yes.
but China said it doesn't want to interfere in other countries' internal affair. But listening to your explanation, I think it's good that Indonesia is not going to close our eyes and not going to help in any way. So, but we've seen protesters in Bangkok, Thailand, reacting to the news of the executions. How do you evaluate this show of solidarity? Do you think it'll happen in other countries too, not only in Thailand?
Well, people in Thailand, they tend to love demonstration. And this kind of demonstration only targeted towards Myanmar. And they do not target Vietnam, do not target other part of Southeast Asia. Well, I think this is symbolic, because they try to, because they believe the Thai government should be supported by the people. Because by doing this, I think the message will go to the military junta that the Thai is at one table. The leaders and the people are at one table, and they criticize you. And in this case, the government in Myanmar are still counting. What are its fellow members inside ASEAN are thinking on what is going on? At the moment, the responses of ASEAN countries are still weak, isn't it? We are saying concern, but we need to have a more stronger words. Yeah, I think let's wait until Pak Jokowi comes back. I'm sure he will consult, because when the case happened in February 2021,
Yes.
Indonesia was the first one who opinionated. We consulted Malaysia, Singapore, and also Brunei. Brunei was the head of ASEAN at the time, and we came to the ideas on how to deal with this. At the end, coming to the 5 points of ASEAN. But we had emergency summit. We had foreign ministers meetings, and technically, Myanmar should have understood. ASEAN produce different stages of critics towards Myanmar. Firstly, formal meeting involving foreign ministers, and then informal summit involving the head of states. Then come the summits.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the summit, our dialogue partners were there, our observers were there, and we were at the same table, we were at the same opinion. Myanmar needs to behave. I think the word behave is too strong. And Myanmar needs to pay attention on how the world has aspired Myanmar to follow. But I think negotiation should be always on the track.
Yeah.
Consultation should be open, and then a direct hotline with Myanmar regime must be maintained. That's the job of Cambodia at the moment, the head of ASEAN, and also in Indonesia, the next year, head of ASEAN. But anyhow, it is very difficult to deal with our fellow ASEAN countries. We need to engage our fellow, and we need to prevent conflict, and we need to cooperate at the same time. And in this case, ASEAN is running out of ammunition because we cannot promise FDI, we cannot promise projects, we cannot promise concessions. But what we can only promise is we are here with you, we are with you, and then we are happy to share our best experiences with you. And then the past is the past, let's face a better future. And in this case, the ASEAN 5 points of actions, we always say this, but Myanmar always say no, 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 no.
Okay. So it is a very, very difficult situation, and thank you for enlightening us once again the context, and of course enlightening us the historical context of what's happening. That all best effort, if I can summarize, all best efforts already have been pushed morally and formally. Now the question is how things will unfold, right? And what could be the next boldest move by which country that is going to influence and have the biggest leverage, of course, on Myanmar. So we will have to wait and see. And we'll have you back here to discuss when that happened, because that is definitely going to be a deal breaker for sure, to have Myanmar practically react to just about anything that anybody does. So we're definitely looking forward to that day, and to this day, unfortunately, we're still here sitting and waiting for the next good thing to happen. Pak Reza, thank you so much for the enlightenment, and it's always good to discuss with you and to learn from you more, and we hope to see you back again in the studio very, very soon.
I'm honored.
And
Thank you very much.
as international relations and issues always unfold here, world issues, we continue to bring you, and thank you so much, Pak Reza, for your time.